What's up, Wednesday Night Live? Thank you guys for tuning in tonight from wherever you are. So, in 1992, there was an epic wildfire that burned down over 4,500 acres of forest just north of Atlantic City. One guy, as he was leaving his house, saw a fireball with 60-foot flames shooting out of it, rolling down his street. It was a crazy situation, and it was totally abnormal for that part of the world. And part of the reason it burned so epically and was so hard to fight was that the forest was really dry that year. But it wasn't dry because of a drought. It rained in the summer of 1992 in New Jersey. It actually rained a lot. The reason the forest was so dry was because of an invasive species known as the pine looper. And the pine looper is this ugly brown moth, and its caterpillars just eat tons and tons of leaves. And when it invades in mass, they just devastate the foliage and they dry up all the moisture that's generally held in the leaves of the forest. And that summer, the pine loopers attacked New Jersey. And so when the fire started, it could not be put out. Back in Jeremiah's time, and we've been in a series of Wednesday Night Live messages about the life and writings of Jeremiah, the nation of Israel actually experienced something really similar to what New Jersey experienced in 1992. Not an epic wildfire that burned down all the forests, but an invasive species that left everything so dry it was ready to be destroyed. In Jeremiah 17, verses 6 through 8, Jeremiah tells the people, your sin, or your sins specifically, are like all these little things that you've been doing, all these little compromises that you've made with the world, all these little ways where you've been tempted to turn your back on what God says and chase after the stuff that your culture tells you and your society tells you need. All of your sins have left you like dry bushes in the desert rather than like trees planted by streams of water. And it's interesting because he kind of says that sin is similar to the pine looper. It's this invasive species that dries us up so much spiritually that it leaves us in a place where we're prone to be destroyed by the first spark that comes, by the first fire that rages in the world around us. And I think it's interesting to think about in 2020, as we live in the middle of a world that feels like it's burning. Are you, am I, trees planted by streams of water? Are we spiritually nourished? Or are we dry? Because little sins here and there, small compromises that we've made all over the place have dried out our souls to the point where the fire burning around us threatens to consume us. It's a worthwhile question to ask. And so what I want to do tonight is just make a simple challenge. I want you to search your heart and ask, where are the places where I've been compromising? Where are the little sins that are invading my soul and drying me up and leaving me in a place where I'm susceptible to destruction? Or better yet, ask God that question. In Jeremiah 17, he not only says, hey, these little invasive sins are drying up your soul, he also says, your heart is deceitful above all things. And so, sometimes we can't even ask ourselves because we want to lie to ourselves. We want to be dishonest and be like, well, that sin's not so bad. My little pet sin's fine. That's not drying me out. But ask God, come to him with open hands and say, God, where are the places where I've compromised? Like, what are the invasive species in my life that are taking away the nourishment you want for my soul and that are leaving me prone to destruction? And then, ask him that question and confess. Confess, because every one of us has things to confess. God, this is where I've turned my back on you. This is where I've chased the world. This is where I'm spiritually dry. And ask him to come in and fill you up and bring nourishment and flourishing to your soul again. Because I think right now we need it. Right now, in a time where it feels like the world is burning, we need to be trees planted by streams of spiritual water that are refreshing our souls and filling us up. And so we got to be careful. We got to come to God and be honest about the invasive sins in our souls, ask him for forgiveness and ask him for nourishment so that we are not susceptible to being burned down by the fires that are raging all around us.